It is Talking Reds. I'm Gareth Roberts. This is Craig Hannan. Where'd you start with that as a weekend? I mean, it was all so good, wasn't it? Virgil van Dijk, 80-odd minutes, bang, back of the net. We all go to town. We've beat the Ev. It's Boss. They're in despair. We're up in the air. And then, less than 24 hours later, Philippe Coutinho's gone to Barcelona, 142 million, only around 100 million or so up front. And it all sort of sends us crashing down a little bit again. I mean, before we do the Coutinho stuff, because this is going to be dominated by that, because that's what all the papers are talking about as well. It's what everyone is talking about, so we're going to have to do it as well. We've done it already on the podcast. There's some specials out there, some good ones, including speaking to Paul Joyce about how it all went down and that sort of stuff. So get on all that on the Anfield app and on Tour Player. But the derby first, because it feels like the derby's ended up overshadowed, which is ridiculous, because we've knocked Everton out of the cup.
In the best way possible.
See you then, in the best possible way as well. Yeah, you're right, because not only did we get a dodgy penalty, and didn't they get one of them not so long back, but also they played all right. They had a bit of a go, I think, is fair to say, and we didn't expect that. All last week, we talked about how we expected Big Sam to be Big Sam. Big Sam wasn't as Big Sam normally is. He was slightly less Big Sam, but they couldn't do nothing. They couldn't really get at us. They obviously get that goal, and then big Verge though. I mean, that was like, it was like something out of Roy of the Rovers, wasn't it? It was like you wrote a script about how you wanted the night to go. I think him popping up with the winner doesn't get much better than that. And he touched the "This is Anfield" sign. No one's told him about the Klopp rule. Did you see that?
He just does what he wants.
He does what he wants.
That was my favourite thing about him. The goal aside, before the goal had happened, the whole way through the game, we were talking. You watch him more, don't you? Because he's the new sign. You want to see how he commands his box. You want to see, because he is this big colossus. But my God, he didn't stop talking the whole way through the match. You could actually hear him. You could hear him shouting. You could hear him talking to Karius. You could see him instructing Robertson to go here. He was this big leader. He was the leader that we all hoped we were signing, and you can see that right away. And I love that from the minute he's walked in the door, that's how he's decided he's going to act. He's going to be that guy. He had the chance, didn't he? He had the headed chance that Pickford saves, and I turned around to Dan Austin at that point. I said, just imagine he scores the goal to put us 2-0 up. Then obviously Everton score, and it felt like the worst feeling in the world. It felt like, oh my God, they're going to do this again. And they obviously, like you say, they played a little bit better, but they still were shite. That was the best bit about it. That was the best possible performance Everton could put in, that team could put in, and they still got beat. But when Van Dijk scored, I've not really seen, and been at Dortmund, been at games in 2013-14 season. I've not seen celebrations like that from the Van Dijk goal. Like the whole stairway in 306 was just bodies, people lying everywhere, people kissing and hugging on top of each other. The stewards didn't know what to do. I think it was the Wild West up there, honestly. But yeah, like Gareth says there, you couldn't have even wished for that. Like, you were joking as well, in the office on Friday, Gibbo had said, just imagine, no, sorry, it was on the Facebook Live. Imagine Van Dijk scores. Yeah, my head was falling off at the thought of it, and then it actually happened, and that was brilliant. Like you say, we can't have too many good things as a Liverpool fan, and for the Coutinho stuff to come out straight away, it was disappointing. And all you have to do when you're feeling a bit down about Coutinho is just go and watch the highlights from the Everton game again. That's what I've been doing to deal with it all weekend.
I'm going to try that. I need to see it again. But I mean, yeah, great goal, great performance as well from Van Dijk. Loads of promise there. He is a presence. He is a leader. He is the centre-half that we all knew we needed, and I think you can basically tell that already. So loads more to come from him, which is going to be fantastic. But yeah, to do the Coutinho stuff then, it did sort of break Saturday afternoonish. Paul Joyce was the first one I saw to put it out there, and quickly followed by some of the others. And I mean, I think it kind of felt like it was going to be more protracted than this. I thought there'd be more negotiation. I thought there'd be more suggestion around doing a deal now and Coutinho going in the summer, which is what was discussed over and over as being maybe the best way to go about it. But all that's done and dusted now. He's gone. He's posing in trackies and all the rest of it.
The nicest trackie.
I'm not interested in any of that, I've got to be honest. I'm not interested in what he's wearing. how long he's injured for now, which apparently 20 days, I'm not interested in. When he's unveiled on the pitch, what his medical's like, nothing, he's gone, he's done, he's out, he's not asked, do one. And I think what worries me about this is, look, lots of people have said, oh, it's good money, and it's a deal that eventually could be, you know, the second most expensive in the world right now and all that sort of stuff. But money doesn't score goals, money doesn't get you through the Champions League next stage, money doesn't win the FA Cup, players do. And what I'm a little bit concerned about right now is that it doesn't seem to me that there's any deals imminent for Liverpool. And I kind of think if you're going to let him go now, I understand some of the reasons that are being kicked around about sort of team spirit, about if he wants to go, let him go. But it's about what's best for Liverpool, and Klopp, it seems, has made the shout with the owners as well. They're all in agreement that now is the time, that maybe, you know, if they waited till the summer, the fee wouldn't be the same. There was the risk of them getting injured, there was the risk of Barcelona looking elsewhere, all of those things. But equally, there's a risk now that Liverpool don't finish top four, that Liverpool go out in the next stage of the Champions League, that they don't have a run in the FA Cup, all of those things. Because what you've done is, you've shown the squad of, forget his character and whether he was, you know, what he was doing with injuries and all this, all those stories that are going around. Remember instead that this season in 20 games, he'd scored 12 goals, he'd assisted 9. Last season, it was his best ever goal return in his career. This is a player, whatever you think of him and whatever you now think of him, who could win football matches, you could score free kicks, you could score from outside the box, you could spot through balls early. And we haven't got that. There isn't a like-for-like Coutinho replacement in the squad. There's potentially not that many out there either that we can go and get, which is probably why Barca are paying top whack to get him over there. So all of those things concern me a little bit, and you know, some of the names we're linked with, well, you know, Mahrez, the club have already said that's not a thing, despite continuing reports which seem to be sourced from elsewhere, not Merseyside. Lamar, mentioned again in the papers today, it's on the back of the Mirror again. Again, though, you know, Monaco aren't really making noises about looking like they're going to sell now. There is talk that they might sell in the summer. So there's a scenario here where we don't end up with any players, and we've let one of our best ones go. And I think, you know, that could be devastating to the momentum that we'd built up. Especially considering the fact that we can still finish second. We can, you know, we can do something in the Champions League. You know, we're in the last 16 and play Porto. There's scope for this team to go far in that competition. And the FA Cup, I want to win a trophy. We've not won a trophy in ages. I think that's the most disappointing thing. You know, I've seen people talk, well, it's 142 million, but you can't play 142 million centre midfield, can you? And yes, it's a little bit worrying if they have decided to let him go and there wasn't someone lined up, because when we first heard of Coutinho leaving and the potential, you know, and potentially leaving in January, the first thing I thought, well, is if they do this, that must mean they've got someone, whether that's Kite early, whether it's Lamar. But what we're seeing is we're seeing other clubs do what Liverpool should have been doing, and that's them saying, well, no, we can't let our star player go because we need him until the summer. Leipzig need Keita to get into the Champions League again. We need Coutinho to get us into the Champions League again. So it's a massive, massive risk. And understand from Jürgen Klopp's point of view, if he's got you know, Philippe Coutinho telling his teammates early that he's going to go to Barca, and then it doesn't happen, and then he's telling them, well, you know, my Christmas party, well, that's a half-leaving party, and you know, he's in Roberto Firmino's ear telling him, oh, I want to leave, and that can be unsettling for the players. And I can sort of see from a human aspect why Klopp might say, well, it's time to cut the ties. But from a fan's point of view, losing their best player mid-season almost feels suicidal. It just feels... He's walked out, you know, this human side as well, though. He's walked out on his mates. He's contributed this far to the season. You know, he's helped last season Liverpool get into the Champions League. Liverpool are in the last 16 of the Champions League. Coutinho can't go to Barcelona and play in the Champions League. He'll be sitting there watching. He could have stayed at Liverpool, played in the Champions League with his mates, and who knows
what's 4 months?
Exactly.
Like, imagine he gives us 4 months, gets us to the Champions League semi-final, wins us an FA Cup. We qualify for Champions League next season. Well, Coutinho can walk out the door of it with his head held high, and no one would begrudge him, because we all know it's his dream to play for Barcelona. We've heard this many times. We saw it with Suarez. But you know, if he does all that for us and stays that extra little bit of time, we can sort of say, oh well, now maybe is the right time. We've got this money. It's a good time to go and invest it in another player, a Lamar. We've got Keita coming in, but that's the thing that leaves the sour taste in the mouth, is that it feels like almost from the minute the transfer window closed in August, him and his team have been trying to engineer it for it to happen again. And what's frustrating me, from Liverpool's point of view, is they'll obviously have known that there was a chance this was going to happen. They'll have known way past the 1st of January when it broke with us. They'll have known that before that. They'll have known it before December. So I wonder why there isn't someone in place right away. It obviously shows how difficult it is, and that's what's going to be infuriating. We're going to hear journalists say, oh, January's a difficult time for us to buy. We're going to hear that again. We've heard it the last 3 seasons.
Don't sell your best player then.
Exactly. And that's what we've done. And I think it's a massive risk from Jürgen Klopp's point of view, because Liverpool don't get top 4. Everyone turns to, you give Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona midway through the season. And it's a massive, massive risk for the owners.
He is in terms of like Liverpool's style. He has been a player that drives the team forward. He is a man that can all of a sudden up the tempo, beat a couple of players, make things happen. And you just worry whether, I think there's some revisionism going on now about how good he is as a player. I'm seeing lots of people now all of a sudden saying he's not that good. Didn't hear that the other week, to be honest. And then that he's not a Klopp player all of a sudden now as well. I frankly think that's bollocks, because you literally had Klopp talking in the summer about building a team around Coutinho, about wanting to play him in a deeper role because he thought he had the skill set to do that, and about everyone complimenting that. And then you look at things like they gave him the armband, they tried to offer him a better deal, they bent over backwards to try and keep him, and it didn't work. So that doesn't sound to me like a manager or a club that didn't think he was that good or didn't think he was that suited to what the manager had in mind. So I think that particular theory belongs in the bin.
I think the worrying thing with me now going forward, if we don't bring anyone in, is what kind of a knock-on effect does that have on the performance of our other players? So we've seen Salah thrive in his first season in the Premier League. We've seen Firmino have his best season yet at Liverpool. We've seen Mane, not just as good as last season, but he's been injured, he's been in and out of the squad. I just worry about what happens to them now, because Coutinho's played such a pivotal role in this side this season, and
we've won without him though. I mean,
we have.
We've won without him. We have got some good players at the club. Mane, Salah,
we're in our best position,
Firmino. Oxlade-Chamberlain started to come good. Lallana's back fit again. There are reasons to be positive about this, but this is Monday after he's just left, and I know people are probably going to watch this and go, "Oh, seems a little bit doom and gloom, lads." But that's where we are right now, and if Liverpool can announce someone who's a ready-made replacement or as close as someone who can come in and contribute those figures I mentioned earlier, because this is the problem. If you want to fight on a few fronts, as Klopp has been doing all season, he's been rotating. He's gone big on rotation. And yet what he's allowed it to happen now is one player drop off, a key player, a player who was in your best 11. So it is worrying, but we'll see where, we've got over things before. Bigger and better players have left Liverpool, and Liverpool have still survived. The club being bigger than any player and all that. Lots of people saying that, and I absolutely get it. But we'll talk a little bit more about Coutinho in the second half, just because he's mentioned so much in the papers, and it's hard to do the papers and not sort of talk about him. But a couple of other things before we go to the papers. The FA Cup draw tonight, 7 p.m, and it's on the fucking One Show. I mean,
do you know what? I've watched it before. I remember watching it last year, and I think it's all the lads in the shirts, and then they get drawn out, and then they run up to the studio and they stand beside the other guy and they shake hands. It's mad.
What's wrong with just the old way of get the balls out the hat and and just do it on the radio and do it. I mean, look, I get like that because it's Harry now. The whole thing's dragged out, and you've got Friday games, Saturday games, Sunday games. There's a game tonight. But just let's keep some traditions. The One Show. I mean,
the One Show's all right. I'll not have a bad word said about it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's an all right TV show.
Well, who do you want anyway? The Reds are ball number 4.
Do you know what? After Friday night, I want another big one. I really enjoyed myself, and another big one at home. I mean, and if not another big one at home, then a nice away somewhere, because you get a big allocation, don't you?
You know what I fancy? I fancy Forest away.
For all the old fellas.
Just because we can go and sing, "We ain't Nottingham Forest," and it'll make sense for once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because for the first time in my life.
There's loads of people singing that song at every game going, "Why do we hate them again?" You know, we've never even played them. So it would be nice to go and sing that at them. It's not a ground I've been to, so there's that as well. And, you know, they knocked Arsenal out, but Arsenal were absolutely terrible. So the cup holders are out. That was funny. That was good.
I'm desperate to win this competition, by the way.
Yeah, I'd really, really like Liverpool to win it because, you know, this trophy drought's doing me head in now. And I don't even think there's a debate anymore about how good or bad the FA Cup is. Just win trophies, boys. That's what we're all in it for. It's boss, you know. It's sound. Buses going around town, people smiling, lifting trophies,
and they're
medals.
They're not going to affect the
whole thing. Let's do it. Let's win it. Come on. So yeah, 7 o'clock on the One Show anyway, if you want to watch that draw. Mo Salah is the player of the month as well. We know he's good already, so there's no real need for a great discussion around that. Stay with us because in a minute we're going to have a look at the papers. All right, the papers then, and before I do that, the Buffalo Bills lost last night, I'm told. Soz Bills, but apparently they've been doing all right, and there's been lots of interest in my mug. I know absolutely nothing about the sport, and the only reason I've got the mug is because a kind red came to visit us from over there, gave us this, and I thought, that's boss, it fits loads of tea in it. So unlucky the Bills. In the papers then, been really funny to watch Mourinho and Conte basically falling out with each other and having this big public spat, which is amazing. It continued on Saturday after Chelsea drew with Norwich. He came out, Conte, and called the United manager a little man and a fake. I enjoyed this though in the Telegraph, where they've actually done a graphic there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's is Jose really that little? And so they've got like Conte apparently is 1.78 meters. Mourinho is only 4 centimeters behind that at 1.74 meters.
Every centimeter counts, you know.
You know what I mean? So is he that little? We'll leave it up to you to decide. But I really like that. Basically, he said, you know, I'm ready to see him. Is he ready to see me? You know, that's as close as you're going to get, I think, to a football manager.
What height's that in fit?
I don't know. Don't ask me that. I'm not working.
Just trying to work out if I'm little or not.
But yeah, it'd be funny if they just, you know, maybe they could raise some money for charity by just basically having a scrap. That'd be all right, wouldn't it? I'd go to that. The next one that I liked in today's papers, Fleetwood Town drew with Leicester City. A really boring match. I watched that one. That's not particularly exciting, but what I did like is that Chris Neal won a year's supply of pizza for keeping a clean sheet against Leicester. There's something to do with one of the sponsors or whatever. But he spoke about it later, and he basically wants to know if in the replay, if he keeps another clean sheet, can he have some garlic bread and some sides as well to go with it?
Brilliant.
Which you know, I really enjoyed. I mean, quite wise getting a year's supply of pizza for keeping a clean sheet when he's, you know, they're League Two, aren't they, Fleetwood Town, I think. He's still a professional footballer though, aren't you? And I can't imagine filling yourself up with pizza every night is great for a goalkeeper.
Can you imagine him going home to his wife or whatever and you know, the wife saying like, what's for dinner tonight? And he's just like, just having a pizza tonight again, love.
Again,
you know what I mean?
yeah, again.
He's so fat at the end of it.
I mean, yeah, I'll watch Chris Neal's career with interest from now on.
His waistline as well.
See how he gets on getting the garlic bread. All right, so what else have we got in the papers? Yeah, I mean, much of the rest of the papers, as you can imagine, is about this Coutinho deal. It's hard to sort of not keep talking about it because everyone's talking about it, and I'm sure people will want it all to move on. It's probably not going to really move on until Liverpool batter Man City on Sunday at Anfield in the Premier League. So until then, you know, it'll probably get the odd mention. But this was interesting. There's loads of big pieces in all the big papers about Coutinho, about Liverpool, about Klopp. I've had a scan over them, and you know, there is some really good, well-written stuff there. Always good, well-written stuff is Paul Joyce's stuff in the Times. Worked on the patch for a long, long time, knows his stuff. What he's mentioning here, and people often say in the comments on these videos that we don't talk about the owners enough. We talk about the owners an awful lot, to be honest. We've done specific videos, specific shows. Everyone's made their opinion clear, and it's really it's boring to keep talking about. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. There's no one queuing up to buy Liverpool. They're not particularly keen on selling, it doesn't seem. So we are where we are. But what Joycey's done, which I found quite interesting, is he's just talked about how much Liverpool have spent and how much they've recouped. And I know this is something that lots and lots of people are really interested in, the net spenders, as I think James Pearce once called them on Twitter. But anyway, so for the net spenders, in 2014, Liverpool spent 114.75 million and they recouped 83.25. In 2015, they spent 76.9 million, recouping 68.4. 2016 spent 61.9 with 78.86 brought in. In 2017 and the first week of January 2018, Liverpool have spent 209.9 million and recouped 177.6 million. Joycey says that is not a lavish spending during a period in which the club's overall value has gone up. And then, he mentions sort of Klopp's values really as well. I mean, Klopp is seen as a developmental manager, a man who puts faith in his squad and all the rest of it. But nevertheless, in the Premier League, given the spending that goes on around us as a club, it's hard not to compete if you're not spending.
Does it not make sense to try and help a manager, especially a manager like Klopp, that we hear so much about how we can bring a player in and Klopp can take this sort of rough diamond and make him into something better? But imagine we brought in someone, and suppose we just have Van Dijk, but imagine we brought someone in that was already at that level and he can make them even better. Do you know what I mean? Giving him as much help as possible, especially in a league that's dominated by Man City and dominated by their riches, and doesn't look as if that's gonna stop anytime soon. They're likely to get Alexis Sanchez. That's something that we have to compete with, and it'd be nice to give him the best possible opportunity to compete.
Yeah, no one's knocking around waiting for Liverpool to come good. No one's bothered if, in 2 seasons they're going to be decent. Liverpool need to compete now. And one of the issues, obviously, with the Coutinho deal, which we were talking about just before, is that Liverpool need to consistently get in the Champions League, not just once and then fall off a cliff, once and off a cliff like they've done over and over, every single season, in there. And if Liverpool don't get someone else in, is that putting that at jeopardy? We'll see.
It also goes to show the job that Jürgen Klopp's been doing at Liverpool on such a small budget compared to his rivals.
Yeah. Now this one, you will know if you regularly watch this video that I regularly take the piss out of the horrible Tory Nazi rag that is the Daily Mail. It's not a liked newspaper. It's a horrible paper. And yes, here's Coutinho, world exclusive on the back page. A really, really, really odd piece of journalism all round. Loads of staged pictures of him in jets and cars. Even a picture knocking around of him sort of with a Barcelona a book. And it's sort of detailing his day and how he ended up at Barcelona. Not sitting right with a lot of people, including me. Really weird pictures of him watching Liverpool beat Everton in the cup, clapping at a telly. I mean, why is in London and why is in a lavish hotel clapping a telly when there's a spare football ground there called Anfield where he could have sat there and watched his mates play football with his injury, and he could have watched Liverpool live beat Everton, and he could have jumped on a jet at Liverpool airport, no doubt, and he could have gone to Barcelona from there. So not sure about the London thing, not sure about watching us on the telly, not sure about getting off on your mates in general, and definitely not sure about this absolutely bizarre piece of all papers, the Daily Mail.
It's PR. It's total PR, isn't it? Look at the way the pictures are set up. Read the story. It's not. It's almost as if it's Coutinho himself has almost written it for the guy, isn't it? Or Coutinho's people even. In the way everything's worded and the little things that they add into the stories. It's just strange. It's bizarre to read.
Yeah, it's a really, really weird piece, and it has, it's added, Craig mentioned of a sour taste about some of this, and I think that's only added to it. One thing we haven't mentioned, by the way, on all this is the idea, which is in quite a few of the papers, that Coutinho actually paid some of his own money to make this happen. So he contributed, it's said to be around 11.5 million to the actual fee that Barcelona are paying Liverpool, which is absolutely bizarre, but perhaps also an indication of the money that's going to be coming his way, both from Barcelona and of course from our friends at Nike, who put out that weird advert early by accident.
I can't imagine Philippe Coutinho is sitting, what is it, 11, was it 9 million, 11 million? There's no way Philippe Coutinho was sitting with 11 million less in his bank balance.
He's going to be all right. I mean, you know, he's jetting around on these jets, which we get to see inside on the back of the mail there. I mean, that's another thing for me as well. Look, I know that footballers are rich. I know how comfortably off they are. I read the figures all the time about how much they're paid and how much the transfers are and everything else. But just sort of, that piece for me just rubs it in your face a little bit too much. I know that they're on a different plane to us in terms of finances and everything else. I'm not sure I want it rubbed in my face that you're going everywhere on private jets and you're in massive hotels and all that. I know that happens. I know it happens. But when you're just seeing it plastered over a paper,
it's even the words that are used in it. There's a bit where it says about Coutinho and his people write a goodbye. It was almost like a goodbye letter to Liverpool. Yeah. And then they say it is heartfelt. And I'm thinking, fuck off you. Like, that's just... And why is it the meal it's got? It's all very strange, I think.
Yeah, and you know, there's been a few pieces over the weekend. I mean, I've been dancing around it because I'm always very worried about making statements on our content that I don't know to be true, but it's plenty of people now that have written it to say that there are questions around some of these injuries while he was at Liverpool. It is questionable as well that he makes comebacks from injuries for Brazil and not for Liverpool. So, you know, all these actions really, I mean, there was a bit of a hint in Klopp's statement, I thought, as well, where he sort of said, you know, he's making it clear to teammates that he wanted to leave as well. That said to me that, you know, maybe there was just something somewhere where they just thought, you know what, we've had enough. Do you know what, we've had enough and we've got to sell. But it still would have been nice if it was, do you know what, we've had enough and we've got to sell. And this fella's coming in. I mean, I know some people have gone, oh, well, we've got Van Dijk though, and that's sound. And Van Dijk probably will sort the defence to a large extent, but he's not going to drive forward through midfield and pick a pass early. He's not going, I was just going to say, he's not going to bend the free kick in the top corner. He might do.
He might do, yeah.
He's all right on the free kicks. Van Dijk might just sort Everton.
No, look, don't start doing that. Look, we need to go and replace Philippe Coutinho. I can't be arsed with sitting here on the 1st of February and us doing this video and having to talk about how yet again Liverpool haven't hit their transfer targets or haven't brought someone in because it's difficult in January. I can't be arsed with that. I can't be arsed with the fume. I can't be arsed with the bad feeling on social media and within our fan base because it's felt like too many transfer windows under this ownership have ended in that and ended in a letter to fans explaining themselves. I'd rather you just explain yourselves by going out and signing someone, and if that takes an extra 20 million, we'll maybe look at it as, well, that's less risk because we want to get in the Champions League, so we've took that risk to pay 20 million extra to get someone in January because we don't want to risk missing out in Champions League.
I mean, the other side of that coin as well, though, is don't panic buy. Don't go and buy Balotelli. Don't go and buy Ricky Lambert. Don't go and buy...
Yeah, but it's not. We don't just need to replace Coutinho in his position. There's so many different positions around this team that could be improved. The goalkeeper, for one. Get another centre back in to play with Van Dijk. Would that be too much to ask? There's a centre midfielder. You can bring another attacker in because now Coutinho's left. We're maybe an attacker. Like, you could get someone in. What happens if Bobby Firmino gets injured? Who plays up top? Dominic Solanke.
There's if he's ever fit.
Well, he's injured. Like, there's so many places around this team that could be improved. So don't tell me that there's not someone in world football whenever you've got 140 million burning in your back pocket that you could get in to improve it. And don't tell me that teams know that we've got this 140 million because what happens in the summer? Do they just magically forget that we've got all this money? They'll know we haven't spent it, so they know we've got it. They're going to know. So
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens today on the Anfield app. A couple of shows being recorded. The Gutter, which if you don't know by now is our show all about the latest transfer gossip affecting Liverpool Football Club. There'll be loads and loads of links because, like Craig says, everyone knows they've got some money washing around in the bank account right now. So all of those links will be discussed, analysed, criticised by Rob Gutman et al. And then also as well today we've got the review where we get in depth on quite how Liverpool beat Everton. We'll look at individuals, tactics, what both managers did, all of those things with a qualified coach here, Sean Rogers, one of our most popular shows, so it's worth a listen. £5 a month to subscribe to Tour Player. So yeah, get on it, have a listen, have a go. And the free show is already out there. That was done on Sunday. So if you fancy having a go at that before you bail in and pay a £5, fair enough. Have a go at that, have a listen. That's also getting lots of good feedback as well. And tomorrow there will be another Talking Reds, but that's the day it's done.